Welcome to Path to Recovery. I'm Apryl Chapman Thomas, chatting with Rebecca Robertson of City of Denison, Texas. Welcome, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Before we get started, tell us a little bit about the destination.
Sure. So Denison is a population of about 24,000. We're an hour to 2 hours north of Dallas, depending on where in Dallas you're driving from. And we are the last city off of Highway 75 before you get to Oklahoma. So we're right on Lake Texoma. So we've got lots of outdoor things to do, a lot of nature, a lot of water activities. It's a really great community to be a part of.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, let's go back to the shutdown. Tell us a little bit about that, what Denison did, and the role your office played.
So we went to work from home, I think it was April 1st. So we worked from home like April through May, and we came back to the office in June. And I am a one-woman department in marketing and tourism. So it was really weird shifting from, all of the planning that we had been doing, and then everything just basically coming to a complete halt. So I started out with shifting our advertising and canceling or moving anything that we had during those months and trying to push it to June and July. I had also contracted with a photographer monthly to do a ton of nature shots. I actually contracted with him in February, right before everything happened, which the timing of that could not have been better.
Right there.
I was like, oh, thank you. So he went out and got just a ton of gorgeous, lake shots, social distancing type activities that you could do. So we did that, and we were primarily just trying to target people who were wanting to get out of the house and wanting to do things, but you can't, everything's closed. So what do? You go to the lake, you kayak, you bring your dog, go on walks, that type of thing. And then we also started doing a, visit Denison from your home with coloring pages. So I had an artist design 6 different coloring pages from our museums, a lake, our downtown, and it was kind of a way that you could print them out at home, color them, and we did giveaways and prizes and that type of thing on social media. So that was another thing that we did that really went over well. And that was just all while everything was closed. So it was weird. It was very weird.
More about learning to, go by the seat of your pants, basically.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so what can we do to keep ourselves in front of people? Because you don't want to go dark where people, forget about Denison. But then at the same time, you don't want to push people too much because it's kind of falling on deaf ears if people are, staying at home and not wanting to get out. So it was an interesting, it's still interesting, but those 2 months were really interesting.
How much was social media important or valuable during this time?
I think it was huge. People were spending a lot more time on social media because you're sitting at home, you're scrolling, there's not really a lot of new shows coming out because people stopped shooting. So, social media was huge and our engagement went up. We continue to get more and more followers. We got a ton of new followers during quarantine, just because we were trying to stay in front of people. And I went out to different places, to some of our local farmers, to different businesses that were kind of doing different things a little different, whether it was switching their models completely to online or curbside or whatever, and tried to do Facebook Lives and kind of Instagram behind the scenes and meet the farmers, meet the business owners, just to try to kind of give a real perspective and kind of get to know the people behind the business. So I think that really helped too.
What were some of the challenges working with partners?
Just a responsiveness, I think. And some of our, hotel partners, of course, suffered a lot, and some of them, had to close for a period of time. But honestly, as far as working with the business owners, they were always very excited and very receptive. But, everyone was just like scrambling. So some of the more challenging thing was trying to figure out, okay, when's a good time? When do you have some downtime? And, trying to get a hold of people because everyone was just kind of all over the place.
What was the most effective thing you think you did?
I'm sorry, the most.
What's the most effective thing you think you did? What do you feel like you got the best from?
Honestly, I would probably say our outdoor photography, just because we were able to not only use that on social media, but use that in email marketing. And then once we picked our ads back up in print, we were able to use those as well. And I cannot tell you, one of the things that we have up here is kayak rentals on one of our lakes. I cannot tell you how many people I saw kayaking on that lake on social media. It was like, I mean, it just went gangbusters. It was crazy. I mean, it was like everyone was kayaking. So, I mean, and our Parks and Rec department could hardly keep up with it because so I would definitely say that played, doing the outdoor photography and tying it in with social media, that was huge.
It's like people realize what's in their backyard.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Never paid attention to until you have to.
Right.
Do you feel like that's an edge Denison has, is the outdoor opportunities?
I do. I mean, I think being so close to Dallas, we just have a wide variety. We have a ton of mountain biking trails. We have Eisenhower State Park, camping. I mean, the terrain here is just so much different. I mean, and it's just so close. And aside from that, too, we have a vineyard that has just opened back up. And I mean, it's 50 acres of, planted vines that you can't get that, in the city. And so we just, it's gorgeous, it's peaceful, it's relaxing. It's really just a great place to come unplug and unwind, and a great place to socially distance. So.
Well, looking back, it may be too early to tell, but looking back, is there anything you wish you did differently, or wish you did that you just thought, oh, I wish I did this then?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think we did the best that we could, at the time. And, I don't know. That's a really hard one. I think that, with the cards that we were dealt, I think I'm pretty happy with how we came out of it. And, being a drive market and having all of the outdoor activities, I think it really put us in a good spot. And then as things kind of started to open back up, we partnered with our downtown, with Parks and Rec, and we came up with a Denison business reopening website or page on our website that just it continued to show what businesses were doing, whether it was curbside pickup, delivery, or dine-in with limited seating, whatever. We tried to keep that up consistently, and it's still there, but that was a huge success as well. But yeah, I mean, that's a really hard one.
Well, let me see if this is going. Maybe this one will be easier. What have you said you've learned from this experience?
I have learned that you can't, that nothing is set in stone, obviously, like no calendar, no nothing. And that you kind of have to be prepared for everything. And it's interesting because about a year ago, I was at a tourism college in Texas, and I think it was one of the first topics was about disaster, and how is your community ready to handle disaster? And at the time we were thinking, natural disaster, or, some kind of a threat, or, the things that we have seen in the past. Like no one thought pandemic. Mm-hmm. And it was just really interesting, thinking back on that conversation and how are you prepared, to handle something. So, I think that we just learned to be prepared for anything. And I'm really, really proud of all of our departments within the city, and all of our business owners, and everyone who's just been, really flexible. And I think it's taught us to be more flexible and to think outside the box on a lot of different things. And it's pushed a lot of our business owners, I would say, to move from, only a storefront model to being more e-commerce, more on social media. And it's been really, really, really cool to see, and really cool to see everyone come together.
I agree. I think one of the good things that come out of this is to see the creativity.
Oh, Absolutely.
Especially when you had to think out of the box, especially for businesses who may not have, have just checked their business model and say, okay, well, what can we do now?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that any of our businesses that I know of have had to close permanently yet. So that's been really encouraging. And we're still having to pivot. I mean, through the end of the year, our events, whether it's canceling or kind of reconfiguring.
Well, as we wrap up this chat, what advice would you give to others in the industry?
I would just say, don't feel defeated because it's easy to do. I felt, there's so many times where I felt like, like no one can travel. Like this is our industry. And, just continue to think outside the box, continue to watch what other people are doing. I did that constantly. I was in a lot of different groups and, just trying to see what was working and what wasn't, and just be open to change and be open to some new ideas and new ways of thinking. And you'll just really be surprised, I think, what will come out of it.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much. Thank you.